Your salary didn't go up, but everything else did. And if you feel like you're working harder than ever but still not moving forward financially, this is probably why. Because the problem is not just what you earn. It's what everything around you is doing while your income stays relatively still. Let's break this down clearly. Most people think financial pressure comes from spending too much or not earning enough. But that's an oversimplification. The real issue is timing. Your income changes slowly. Very slowly. Maybe once a year, sometimes less. Sometimes only when you switch jobs or negotiate. But your expenses don't wait. They adjust constantly, quietly, continuously. Rent changes with the market. Food prices change with supply chains. Insurance adjusts with risk models. Subscriptions change with company pricing strategies. Services adjust with demand. So while your salary is standing still for months, sometimes years, everything around you is moving, and that creates a gap. At first, the gap is invisible. You don't feel it immediately. Maybe you notice small things like groceries feeling a bit more expensive. Eating out doesn't feel as casual. Bills are slightly higher than expected. But nothing feels dramatic enough to trigger concern. That's how it starts. Because financial pressure doesn't begin as a crisis, it begins as a pattern. A pattern of small adjustments that your brain normalizes one by one. And this is where most people get caught. The brain is not built to track slow financial drift. It adapts locally, not globally. Each one feels acceptable in isolation. But combined, they completely reshape your financial reality. Meanwhile, your income is still based on an older version of the economy. That's the mismatch, and over time, that mismatch creates pressure. Not always in dramatic ways. Sometimes it shows up as subtle stress. You hesitate before spending. You feel like money disappears faster. You avoid checking your balance. You start postponing decisions. And the dangerous part is how you interpret it. Most people assume the problem is personal. I need to manage money better. I need to stop spending. I need to be more disciplined. But discipline is not the core issue here. Timing is. Perfect discipline cannot fully compensate for a system where income updates slowly and expenses update continuously. That doesn't mean discipline doesn't matter. It means it's not the full explanation. Now let's go deeper. When people receive a salary increase, they often feel relief. But that relief is temporary, because expenses don't stop adjusting. Lifestyle tends to adjust upward automatically. Better income leads to slightly higher expectations: housing, food, and convenience. This is called lifestyle inflation. But even without it, there's another force working against you: external inflation pressure. So you're dealing with two things at once: internal adjustment and external adjustment. And your salary is trying to cover both. That's where people start feeling stuck. Even when income increases, it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like maintenance. And maintenance doesn't create satisfaction. It creates exhaustion. You ask, why does nothing change even when I earn more? The answer is consistent. Because the system is not designed for synchronization. Income is structured. Expenses are dynamic. Income is negotiated. Expenses are market-driven. Income is delayed. Expenses are immediate. This structural mismatch is what creates the feeling of being behind even when you're doing everything correctly. Now here's the most important part. When people feel this pressure, they usually respond by cutting expenses or working more hours. Both are logical, but neither addresses the timing gap itself. Even if you increase income, if expenses adjust faster, the pressure returns. So what actually changes the situation? Awareness of the pattern. Once you understand that financial stress is about speed and adaptation, your decisions start changing. You stop reacting emotionally. Instead, you start seeing structure. And structure is something you can work with. Once you see the mismatch clearly, you can plan around it instead of being surprised by it. That's the real shift. Not earning dramatically more overnight, but finally understanding why stability feels harder to maintain than it used to be. And once you understand that, you stop playing a game you think you're losing, and start realizing the rules were never explained.